why Helen Hunt is not in this film when she is set up so perfectly for it. Let's talk about it. Twisters. Have you seen it this past weekend? It's certainly made a lot of money. It's fun. It's not going to change your life, but it is a good time at the movie theater during the summertime, so I highly recommend checking it out if you've been interested or if you are a fan of the original. Helen Hunt is perfectly set up to return as Jo. Why the hell Helen Hunt is not in this movie? I'm sure I'm not the only one to talk about this. The fact that Helen Hunt's not in the movie isn't going to tarnish your experience at the theater. I still enjoyed the movie. I wouldn't say I was like blown away by it. I think like they really missed a huge opportunity here because again, it was set up perfectly. The film showcases this girl named Kate, and I'm not going to get into a lot about her. She chases tornadoes. She's fascinated by weather. She kind of ignores a phone call from her mom. She seems to be kind of distant from her mom after a certain event. They wind up even setting up the fact that she even uses Dorothy 5, which is a later model of the same one that Helen Hunt used in Twister. We're seeing that kind of throughout the movie, her mom's being kept a secret. There's been no showcasing of her at all, except of how we hear about her through the characters. So to me, it's kind of like, okay, so they're keeping it a secret. We don't know who her mom is. It's going to be the big reveal that it's Helen Hunt. It is not Helen Hunt. It's another wonderful actress, Maura Tierney, and this has nothing to do with her performance. She's fine. She does a great job. But that was like gut-wrenching in the theater, being like, oh my God, this whole time it's set up perfectly for it to be Helen Hunt's daughter. There's a couple quotes that I have that I was hoping would bring some clarity to the situation. None of the reasoning makes any sense. But here we go. Okay, so I think the first quote to start with, and then we'll kind of go right back around to this after we have listened to the other quotes, is by director Lee Isaac Chung. Now, he did direct the film Minari, which I really loved. It's an A24 film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. According to The Wrap, director Lee Isaac Chung stated, "I just felt like that is not what I want to see Jo Harding do years from now. Right after seeing the first film, I imagined, what is Jo Harding up to now? She's out there chasing storms, not at the farm complaining that her daughter's not calling her." And so that was really the basis of why. Okay, it's got to be someone else. So he's essentially saying to see a woman that was like full of vigor and like full of life, and she was just chasing tornadoes as her dream. He didn't want to show her now not doing it anymore. This is where I come into that's a bullshit excuse. And we're going to go on to evidence B. So Bill Paxton, before he died, rest in peace, Bill Paxton, we love you. He actually had his own idea for a Twister sequel. And this absolutely involves his vision of he and Jo having a daughter who's absolutely fascinated by the weather and tornadoes, just like we saw in Twisters. So this quote was recently republished in an article for People magazine, so that me and Helen would have a daughter, a junior in high school, but she's already dating a guy in college, and we'd kind of hand it off to them. So he already envisions his character and Helen Hunt's character being married, or continuing to be married, since they were on the verge of divorce in the first one. So kind of sticking through the marriage, and then having a daughter that was just as obsessed with weather and tornadoes as they are, and kind of passing the torch to her. So in another quote from TheWrap.com, they state that it is also worth noting that when Twisters was really gearing up, it was revealed in the trades that Helen Hunt was indeed a part of the plan. The hope is to bring Helen Hunt back with a drama that focuses on the daughter she had with character played by late Bill Paxton. She has caught the storm-chasing bug her parents had. So years before all of this was coming to fruition, Helen Hunt had a vision for a sequel to Twister, just like Bill Paxton, and she was gearing up to direct. She was co-writing with Daveed Diggs from Hamilton, and he was going to star in it. Daveed Diggs did make a statement that said, "All I'll say is there was an opportunity where we were talking about that, and it didn't happen, and the reasons that it didn't happen are potentially shady, but shady in a way that we all know the industry is shady." My ultimate hypothesis from this is that she was offered to come back for Twisters and was just so disheartened by the way she was treated and the way she was trying to do a sequel and direct herself that she passed on it. Nothing is being said about this. And again, another quote from the director, which is incredibly vague still, because she was they said she would be on set for Twisters. So the director says, I don't know what Hunt's version was, and unfortunately I have not been able to talk to her, nor Jan de Bont, nor anyone from the cast about the movie. We have a few people who worked on the original in our crew. When I read the script by Mark L. Smith with a story by Joseph Kaczynski, I really loved the approach they were taking with it, that it was going to be a new story with new characters and an entirely new science project. I really believe Helen Hunt is a genius, and I would have loved to work with her. That choice was just never part of me coming on board with this, however. So everyone's kind of trying to like tiptoe around this. I really feel that the role was written for her. In a perfect world, for me, and maybe it is cliche, but like the whole movie is filled with cliches, so I don't really think that this would be anything new for something like this. You would think Helen Hunt stayed married to Bill Paxton, and they have a daughter, and perhaps Bill Paxton's character did die in a tornado chase, and that's why maybe that gives her a lot of fear with her daughter doing it, and there's like a lot to play with there, and her daughter just is obsessed with tornadoes and weather just like they were, and so she's not going to stop her from pursuing her dreams and trying to make the world a better place as far as informing the public at a sooner rate of when the tornadoes are coming, or in any way that she can be proactive in helping, these tornadoes not destroy these small towns. So I think that there was a lot that was missed. It was a completely missed opportunity, as I've said. And I think when you watch the movie, you are genuinely expecting for her mother to be Helen Hunt. There's no way around it. It's like the weirdest setup that doesn't happen. And I'm wondering why they kept it like that, because you could have just had her mom interact with her and there's no big build up, but you don't actually even meet her mom till at least halfway through. And close to 3/4 through, unless I'm mistaken, but it's at least halfway through. So you're kind of like, oh, they're keeping this a secret for a reason. And then nothing ever happens with it. So I think that's like, they almost like let down people more than they needed to, at that point. They could have just had this be a completely different character, which they had, but like, don't include Dorothy Five. Why do you have Dorothy Five be this little wink wink when you're not going to have Helen Hunt return? Like, it makes no sense. Where did she get that from? Is this her aunt? Did both her parents die? That's something I could get on board with. That both Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton died in a tornado storm chase, and she was left with Dorothy Five, and she still has the bug that her parents do. And the woman that adopted her, or an aunt or something, is the woman that we got in the movie. Especially because Kate doesn't have a dad. So Kate doesn't have a dad at all, which is why that feeds into this perfectly. Like, oh, her dad died in a tornado storm chase. Any of that would make sense. Like, why did they not give her a dad in this when blatantly it was probably Bill Paxton? That are perfectly lined up. It just makes absolutely no sense, because it almost feels like disrespectful to those characters from the first movie to not have them tie in when they are so closely tied in, but they say it's not really a tie-in. I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think. It's a fun movie, so once you I kind of wanted to make this just to warn people, because I think that a lot of people are going into this, especially once they get through like 25 minutes of the movie, they're going to assume that her mom is Helen Hunt, and it's definitely not. So it's not a spoiler, it's just a fair warning. I still think you'll enjoy the movie regardless. It's not, again, the most amazing thing you've ever seen, but it's really fun, and I feel like even though I think there were a couple too many storm chases in this, I would have rather they focus more on character development and cut maybe like one or two of the storm chases out. But the first storm chase is incredible, and it really does deserve to be seen in the theater. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are down below. Do you think that Helen Hunt got screwed? Because I kind of think she did. Or I don't know what weird deal was made, but I think it was just a really mishandling of the situation that could have been a lot better. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.